In the history of royalty, power is usually built on alliances. You marry your daughter to a foreign king to secure a border. You marry your son to a powerful duke's daughter to gain an army. Marriage was the ultimate political tool. But in 270 BC, one dynasty decided to break the rules. Instead of reaching out, they reached in. King Ptolemy II of Egypt shocked the known world by rejecting foreign alliances. Instead, he looked across his own dinner table and married his full biological sister, Arsinoe II. To the Greeks, this was an abomination. To the Egyptians, it was divine. But the reason they did it wasn't love. It was a cold, calculated strategy to turn a human family into living gods. Today, we're exposing the divine bloodline strategy and the genetic curse it unleashed on the greatest empire of the ancient world. To understand why this happened, we have to understand just how weird the situation was. The Ptolemies weren't actually Egyptian. They were Greeks, generals who inherited Egypt after Alexander the Great died. In Greek culture, incest was a taboo. It was the stuff of tragedies like Oedipus. It was considered cursed. So when Ptolemy II, a Greek king, announced he was marrying his sister Arsinoe, the Greek population of Alexandria was horrified. One poet at the time even wrote mocking verses about it, until the king had him sewn into a sack and thrown into the sea. So why risk the scandal? Why risk the mockery? Because Ptolemy and Arsinoe had a problem. They were foreign rulers sitting on an Egyptian throne. They needed legitimacy. They looked at the Egyptian religion and saw a loophole. The greatest Egyptian gods, Isis and Osiris, were brother and sister and husband and wife. This is where the genius and the madness of the strategy comes in. By marrying his sister, Ptolemy II wasn't acting like a dirty Greek. He was acting like an Egyptian god. They launched a massive propaganda campaign. They gave themselves the title Philadelphus, which literally means sibling loving. They didn't hide the incest. They branded it. The message to the Egyptian people was clear. We are not like you. Regular humans need to marry outside the family to survive. But we are so perfect, so divine, that mixing our blood with anyone else would dilute our power. And for Arsinoe, this was a power move. She wasn't just a queen consort, she was a co-ruler. She wasn't being shipped off to Syria or Macedonia. She stayed home, consolidating power in her own backyard. It was the ultimate consolidation of assets. But let's look at the dark truth of this arrangement. It wasn't just about religion, it was about paranoia. The Ptolemaic court was a snake pit. Generals, advisors, and rival families were constantly plotting. By marrying his sister, Ptolemy II eliminated the need for a foreign father-in-law who might invade him. He eliminated the need for a domestic father-in-law who might overthrow him. It created a closed loop of loyalty. Who could Arsinoe trust? Only her brother. Who could Ptolemy trust? Only his sister. They were isolated at the top, their fates tied together by blood and marriage. It was brilliant for that generation. But biology doesn't care about propaganda. The divine bloodline strategy worked so well politically that the later Ptolemies kept doing it, again and again. Generation after generation of brother-sister marriage began to take a toll. While we don't have medical records, historians point to the physical decline of the later rulers. They became termed fiskon, potbelly. They suffered from morbid obesity, lethargy, and arguably mental instability. The purity became a poison. The gene pool shrank until the dynasty was essentially cloning itself, amplifying every negative trait, every weakness, every genetic error. This tradition continued all the way to the end. The famous Cleopatra, yes, that Cleopatra was the product of generations of this inbreeding. She herself married two of her own brothers before eventually killing them to rule alone. The strategy that was meant to make them untouchable gods eventually made them weak, isolated, and vulnerable to a new power rising in the West. Rome. Rome didn't care about divine blood. They cared about iron and conquest. The divine bloodline of 270 BC proves that sometimes the quest for perfection is the quickest path to destruction. They tried to breed a dynasty of gods, but in the end, they were all too human. If you enjoyed this look into the dark social reality of the ancient world, you need to watch the video Dark Truth of Roman Bathhouses. On this channel, it reveals what really happened behind closed doors in the empire. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.